you can't think straight.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. Continue to validate yourself so you can stay in your right mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're telling yourself, I am not crazy, it's them.
Mm-hmm.
You can't help but to like click back on, like, okay, I can wake up now. Oh, they almost got me. They were stirring that cup like and get out. They almost got me in that fog. But whew, I'm up.
All right. So today I have Alicia Coulter, who is the author of Safe Spaces for Black Women. I am so excited to speak to you today. How are you?
I'm excited to be here. I'm good. Today's a good day, as Ice Cube said.
I know
Today's a
that's
good day.
right. I love to
How are
hear it.
you?
I'm
Yeah,
good. I'm good. And I just want to
good.
thank you for being so flexible and patient. This conversation should have happened months ago, but life was kicking my ass. And you have just been so kind and so gracious to reschedule with me. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I feel like everything happens when it's supposed to happen. So I'm thankful to be here. I'm blessed to be here with you. So no complaints, sis. Thank you. We
Oh,
have to show each other grace. The
amen.
world gives us enough butt kicking. We need to, as Black women, show each other grace.
I agree. I agree. So I just want to go ahead and hop right into the book. First of all, I was telling you
Okay.
before that I love that it is short, it is sweet, it is digestible, get straight to the point. So thank you for writing this book. And one of the
Oh,
things
thank
that
you.
you just open up with the title of the chapter is Black Don't Crack, or Black Does Crack, excuse me. And you talk about just like the weathering that we experience just because of the things that we experience, the racism, microaggressions, the sexism, all of those things, and how we need to find safe spaces in our workplaces. So my first question is, as somebody who has dealt with horrific workplace like trauma, how do you how do you let me go back. So, as somebody who myself, I have also dealt with some workplace trauma, I felt like it jaded me. So, when there were safe spaces, I could not see them. So, what is your advice for somebody who possibly is in a traumatic situation or just leaving it? How do they recognize where, oh, that person is a safe space for me?
So that's the hard part, right? And the recognition is, how do you know? How do I know? For me, myself, I always had a weird thing when I worked in corporate America. I wouldn't trust anyone until they shared their business with me.
Okay.
They had to share something that would get them fired for me to
Mm,
trust them and feel that, okay, maybe this woman, this sister, this brother could be my, pseudo safe space, because we know that it's still work and people will out you if it depends on them keeping their job, if that's
mm,
what's going to get them to keep their job. So I would say that's one technique that
okay.
I used. And when I talk about your safe space at work, I'm more so talking about within yourself
Mm,
and understanding what's going on with you, validating yourself, validating your experiences so that you're like, okay, I'm not crazy. Because when you read in the book, I talk about how I thought I was damaged goods.
mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
literally thought I was damaged goods at one point because I could not find a space where I was safe. Like every job I had, literally every job, there was something. And so I had to find my safe space within myself, if that's during lunch, if that's when I took my breaks, because when you work in corporate, there's no break unless you are a smoker, right? You're a
Sadly.
smoker, you could take 18 breaks a day, right? But if you're
Mm-hmm,
not a smoker, they come looking for you.
mm-hmm.
And so if you could take your breaks, I would go in the bathroom and find a stall in the back and just rest, like literally close my eyes and just take a moment if I had to cry.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes that's how you find your safe space. And then sometimes your safe space is really leaving, be it a leave of absence. I was the queen of LOA. Okay. I don't think I made it past a year and a half on any job I've ever been on.
Mm-hmm.
I would go on LOA because I just couldn't leave of absence. I just couldn't take it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So for those sisters that are just like, I can't take it, I need a safe space. Honestly, I talk about it in the book. You find your safe space in yourself, in your village. It may not be at your job.
Yeah.
It may not be at your job, and it might determine that you develop a strategy
Yeah.
to exit.
Yeah, for sure. I was just thinking about as you were talking, my husband was in a really toxic situation. And because we spend so much time at our jobs, like most of us are working 40, 50, 60 plus hours, you start to think that you are the problem and not them. And as an outsider in that situation, looking into the situation, I could see that it clearly was not him. They were asking him to do the job of three people. It is impossible. So he internalized all of the stuff, right? And I felt that for him, he lost the safe space within himself. And I think you made the really great point that sometimes it's going to be external. Like your village is going to have to come in and you let them in as to what's going on, and they have to support you and hold you up because it is hard. It does a number on your self-esteem.
I promise you, Cassandra, people that saw me then, even when I look at pictures of myself when I was at my last job and versus now, people will say, "Oh, you look so happy. You look so beautiful. You look this." And I say, you know what? The same face. My face hasn't changed,
Mm-hmm.
right? The difference is my black isn't cracking on the inside right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the black that does crack. I'm almost 50. You can't tell,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the inside felt like 80.
Right. Yeah. They
Like
break your
I felt like I
spirit.
was an old woman. Yes, I felt like I was an
Yeah.
old woman that just could not survive. And so now I have replenished myself, my black, with meditation, praying, clearing my head, removing toxic things from my space, all those sorts of things. So now you see my skin going, you see me smiling. Like it's easy for me to smile now. Whereas before people tell me, why do you always have this grimace? I'm miserable.
Yeah.
Okay, like
Yeah.
literally, like people telling black women you should smile. Stop telling black women to smile. We are tired.
Hello.
Okay,
Hello. Yes. Yeah.
so so that for me that's what I embody right now. Is my black has been rejuvenated, but it was cracking
Mm-hmm.
bad.
Mm-hmm. You know what I kind of wanna I'm fascinated by is you went from a horrible work situation and then you pivoted into entrepreneurship and it's like just blossomed for you. I find that entrepreneurship has been difficult, right? And you really have to have really like that internal fortitude. How did you pivot so flawlessly as an outsider looking in from a rough space where, internally, like you just did not feel like yourself? You were, your spirit was broken in a sense to now leading two organizations.
So it was twofold. One, I've always owned a business since I was 18.
Wow.
When I was 18, I started doing event producing. People don't know that. So when they see my events now, they're like, why do they look like that? I've been event producing. But back then, my events, if you saw them, they were a mess. Like I would use tape to tape stuff put stuff on the wall. Like it was tacky.
We
Over
all start
time,
somewhere.
yeah, exactly. Over time, it developed into me, uh, producing or events for Fortune 500 organizations, right? But then I also had a notary business when I was a stay-at-home mom because you're a stay-at-home mom, you know, every stay-at-home mom knows that, well, not everyone, but those that have to live a life of two incomes but only have one, you got to have a hustle of some
Mm-hmm.
sort. I don't care what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a notary business. I had all these different businesses. I catered, stopped catering because I got pregnant with I cook really well. So I stopped catering because when I had when I was pregnant with my third daughter, I made a meal for someone and they were like, this food is nasty. I didn't know I was pregnant yet. So
Oh.
my hormones had everything off. And so I
Mm-hmm.
thought I can't cater anymore because folks don't think I can't cook. So I stopped the catering business. So when in 2018, when I went back to school to get my master's in public health from UCLA, my husband was like, shameless plug, my husband was like, when are you going to get the LLC to do your health navigation business? And I was like, I don't want to do that. He was like, just get it. Just get it. And I was like, okay, so I got the LLC, but I was like, I want to, in 5 years, I want to be a VP of a Fortune 500 managed care company. I want to be, I want my work to be centered in program management for programs for marginalized communities. Like that's all I wanted to do. I didn't want to do anything else. So that's what I was focusing in on. And so then got the LLC. Then I got a good job working for a big nationally recognized managed care company, went to school, went back to school, get my second master's degree. Like I'm like moving and grooving.
Mm-hmm.
And then it all crashes on me. And on my birthday, I wake up and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. It's a year and a half later. And then I said, okay, I'm gonna start working my business. And I met a woman, I talked about her in my book, and she was like, we have this funding coming out. I want you to apply for it. And then it just started happening. So it's not like I, woke up and became a businesswoman. I've been having my own businesses since I was 18 years old, be it formed, they were actually formed or not. I
Mm-hmm.
had a business, I was running a business website. One of my businesses still has a listing in the yellow pages. So, I still like,
Mm-hmm.
I check back and forth, like, oh my God, it still has a listing. Like, that's crazy to me. So it looks flawless. Trust me, sometimes it looks like the Barbie where they have the regular looking Barbie and then the crazy looking Barbie. Sometimes I'm on the phone and folks think I'm the regular looking Barbie, but really I'm the crazy looking Barbie because I'm trying to figure this thing out right now.
Mm-hmm.
And but like I told my husband, if I had to go back to corporate, you'd lose your wife.
Mm-hmm.
And because I don't know, I wouldn't be able to survive. So you see the grind, you see the hustle, you see a way out of no way. I don't have another option. That's what you're seeing. Like, but trust me, on the back end, I'm like trying to figure out, okay, the funding, the this, the that, to make things run smoothly as possible when you're a business owner, to make sure I remain a business owner.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, you ain't new to this. You true to this. You've been doing this.
Yeah,
It
it's
just
been
looks
yeah for a
differently.
while.
It's just morphed as you've like grown and learned more and all of those things. I get that.
Yeah, but let me just say this something. If you've been following me on Instagram for a while, you see I pivoted because my page started off as strictly health equity for COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's strictly
Mm-hmm.
Black, centered in Black women. Our nonprofit did the same type of pivot. It was strictly for COVID
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. And now all my work is centered in providing services for Black women.
I love that. And that
Yeah.
also speaks to that's like a good lesson, like right in that there. Like, it's important to be flexible and to pivot with the times. Like when I first came upon your page, when I first met you online, like you said, you were doing everything about COVID because of the height of the pandemic. But as the
Mhm.
government and whatnot is no longer necessarily interested in that, let's figure out how else I can serve, how else I can use my knowledge, my expertise, my talent in serving the community. And you really have done that beautifully. I think that's a beautiful just
Thank you.
testament. And a good example for us. I think a lot of times it's scary to pivot, at least for me. It is so like, what do you mean I got to change a little bit? I've been doing this forever. Like, to change is like, ooh, I don't want to do that. But sometimes it's necessary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I woke up one morning and I heard Pivot Fearlessly about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and so my new series for my events for this month, this year, are Pivot Fearlessly.
Mm,
We gotta learn. You gotta pay attention to the tide, and when it's time to shift,
yep.
because if you don't shift, you're gonna miss the boat, and then
Yep.
you're gonna be SOL.
Yep.
So yeah.
And you know what? I find that we all have like that intuition. We all know the direction that we should be going. Whether or not we follow the intuition is whether or not like we're successful. Like, and I use that in
Mhm.
quotes. And because for me, success means that I feel good in whatever I'm doing as well. Not just like, us paying the bills, but like, do I feel good going to this place or doing this thing? We all have it. I firmly believe that God gives us inklings and gives us like crumbs to follow to know where to go, and it's sometimes because it doesn't feel, it might look hard, and I'm speaking for myself here, it might look hard, so I don't want to do it. I'm more resistant, and I'll wait until it gets
Mhm.
louder and louder and louder to make that pivot.
Yes,
You know,
I
the
understand.
other thing I wanted to talk about is you said that we are each other's safe space. And you mentioned some folks that you had met in the workspace. And we kind of touched on this earlier about how to essentially vet people and to know if that person can be your safe space. But I have a little bit of another, I guess, question. I've been seeing online the conversation has been about how, and this has not been my experience, but a lot of the young people have been saying that some of their worst bosses have been older Black women. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. And this is coming from young Black women. And that, again, that has not been my experience. My experience has been everything that I have ever gotten. So any door that's ever been open for me has been literally through a Black woman, whether it is a job lookout, whether it is anything good. So what's your take on that? Or yeah, what's your
Ooh.
take?
Oh, I don't want to get canceled, but I'm a big girl. I'm gonna say this, okay? I have three Gen Zers. I have a 21-year-old, a 19-year-old, 17-year-old. So the debates are endless, and they are not afraid of debating old people.
Which I love
Old people.
about
And for
them.
those of y'all that aren't seeing, I'm putting them air quotes. Yeah, but they need to listen sometimes. Sometimes they need to listen.
Fair,
Sometimes they need to listen.
fair,
But I will
fair.
say that this is what I will say about that because I posted about that, not that very thing, but about Black women on needing to work virtually to deal with the microaggressions.
Mhm.
And so one or two Black women responded on LinkedIn and said that basically other Black women need to also listen to this and make sure they're not a part of the problem. It's pretty much what they said.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my take. I think that it's one of those things where it's both parties need to sit down and listen
Mm-hmm.
to one another.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing we do know about the older generation, they do believe in hazing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They do believe that you do need to prove that you belong here.
Mm-hmm.
I got hazed in my MSW program. I always say that one of my internships, this woman was a legit hazer. I don't care what anyone said. Okay. And I told the school that. They want to make sure that you earn your stripes, that you know your place, and that you kick back when you're told to kick back. Whereas the younger generation, and I don't even want to put it on the younger millennials, but unfortunately, some of them need to get added to this, and the Gen Zers, they feel like I went to school, I did what I need to do. Let me come in and do my job the way that I see it fit, and I'm gonna do it the way I want to do it. And so then you got old school saying, look, let me tell you something. What you're not gonna do is mess up my paycheck. And so I believe it's that type of conversation that's being had. And you have a Black mama, I'm intentionally saying it that way, who is leading her Black children, but they're at work, so they're not her kids.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so she's feeling like she has to remind them. And then the kids are like, hey, you're not my mama.
That
You
part.
need to chill.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that it's a tug, it's a pull back and forth. It's almost like a tug of war, and no one's listening to one another.
I agree.
And I have a sister circle through our nonprofit. It's about 9 women. And yesterday when we met, I was sharing with them how I had to humble myself to my daughters. That is one thing that we as Black women, Gen X, and baby boomers, I can't too much speak from older millennials because I don't have friends at that age range, so I'm not sure how they rock. But I know Gen X and baby boomers, we're generally not humble to our children. We
Mm-hmm.
generally do not apologize to our children.
Mm-hmm.
It's I say what I said, I mean what I say, and you do what I say.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're seeing that now in the workplace. Black women talking to their younger
Mm-hmm.
employees. I hate the word subordinate, drives me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Younger employees, okay, or employees of the organization, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I'm seeing is the struggle here. It's more of a culture war, not just ethnicity, but age,
Mhm.
that culture as well, and the belief systems that we hold, and the way things are just moving differently. And so I believe in humility on
Mhm.
both sides, and listening literally on both sides needs to happen.
Yeah, well said. I agree with that. I'm really like I've experienced the hazing culture and I hated it so much. There is a way to do this, and because of my personality too, I'm like, I never came in like, oh, I went to school, so I know it. Cause I know there's a difference between book knowledge and real life experience. So
Mhm.
like there's no need to haze. You can correct all day. Please do. Like, yes. There's just a way to do it. And I really love
Mhm.
the point that you made about humility and just, humbling yourself a bit. And we both can meet at the middle. I really appreciate how
Yes.
Gen Z just does not give a fuck, essentially. I love it. um I
That's
really
because your
do.
kids aren't at that age yet
So I
where you
got
gotta
Gen
listen
Alphas,
to it.
which I think there are words like my kids, like, mommy, I didn't like what you said, that you ruined my day. Like they give it to me all day. And I'm just like, all right, well, I apologize. I didn't mean to ruin your day, but it is what it is. And I get it. My kids are still little. So when they're older, it's gonna be more
Yes,
intense.
it's
But
different.
as somebody from a distance who sees how Gen Z moves, I appreciate it. I feel like in a way they challenge the status quo. Just because it's been done a certain way does not mean we have to keep doing this way. And I think um my generation, I'm an older millennial. I think we just kind of just like, all right, this is how it is. It sucks, but we take it. And it just perpetuates the cycle, essentially. So I don't know. I appreciate them being so assertive.
I'm gonna say this, I don't mind them being assertive. I want them to, in addition to that, I want them to be strategic, and I
Okay.
want them to sit back for a second and think, "Should I do things this way? Should I say things this way?" On social media, about politics, about this, about that. I want them to sit back for a second and assess the land. I know you may not like, I'm not going into political conversation. I'm just saying, I know you might not like either candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Take a moment and just sit back and get a bird's eye view before you open your mouth. That's all I want. And that's not, I, I could tell you my kid specifically, one of my children, I will not out which one it is because if they listen, they're gonna get mad at me. But one of my children specifically, I'm like, just sit back and listen for a sec. No, she is like, no.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I have to say. I'm like, I'm not gonna argue with you because what's not gonna happen is I'm not gonna ruin the relationship with my daughter because of somebody that does not live in my house.
Right.
Okay. So I just been like, okay, that's all I'm saying. Move on with life.
Right. See, when it comes to politics, I like the way Gen Z moves because I feel like if we're going to have any real change, it's going to come from that spirit. Like, I'm fired up. This is wrong. Let's change it. And without necessarily thinking about next year, let's think about the next couple months. I like the energy personally. Like, it's revolutionary to
Okay.
me.
We could talk about this when the camera goes off because remember, I'm a policy person, I'm a political junkie.
I get it.
Mm.
I get it. So I have another question. You
Mhm.
mentioned validation in the book, and I lost my marker. Validation was a big piece. Um
Mhm.
mm, mm, mm. So, yes, actually, can you just speak to why validation is an important piece of finding that safe space within your workplace, within yourself, just in your life in general?
So in the book, I talk about validation, encouragement, and elevation. V is the methodology. And just to kind of give you the backstory so then I can then answer that question. I was talking to my book coach and I was like, Black women deserve validation, encouragement, and elevation professionally. That's what we deserve. We deserve it every day because everyone else gets it.
Mm-hmm.
And so validation is important because it says you are truthful in every experience that you have. Everything that you're experiencing, that you say you're experiencing, is exactly what you're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
No one can shame you. No one can tell you otherwise. Because see, this goes back to what I was saying earlier, how I said I thought I was damaged goods
Mm-hmm.
because no one was validating how I feel. And what does people say? What is like the thing, right? They'll say, if you experience the same thing multiple places, then you're the problem. You know, people
Right.
like to say that. To me, that's one of the laziest statements because that is not a fact. When you're a Black person and the world is set up to harm you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, why would we think that if every black woman is experiencing bad things that means that Black women are the problem? Are we really gonna say that?
Nope.
I'm in
Data
this
says
space,
otherwise. Mm-hmm.
I'm in this Facebook group for Black women in tech because my last job, I worked in IT. And because I told you I wanted to be a VP, so I need to know how all the systems worked. I had worked in business, I worked in this, I worked in that. The only thing I had mastered was IT. And I was like, I need to understand IT because I become a big asset. And so I joined this Facebook group. And so recently they asked, how many of you are loving your job? So all these women are like, oh, I love my job. I love my job. And I was like, y'all playing. So I went in and I said, the question we need to ask is, how many of you have been on your job and are past the honeymoon phase and still love your job?
Mm.
That's that's when they started saying, preach, tell the truth. One woman said, I loved my job until I saw both of my coworkers' faces. And then another woman said, I prefer the honeymoon phase, but it's been over for a long time.
Mm.
So if the majority of Black women and you are correct, Catalyst came out with that wonderful document where they talk about the darker your skin, the more likely you are to deal with racism at work and workplace abuse. The curlier or kinkier your hair is, the more likely you are. The more Afrocentric the features you have, they will make you a fixture where they're like, oh my God, your lips, your nose, your
Mm-hmm.
eyes, and they'll love on you and make you feel like you are a piece of meat, or they will hate you and be like, oh my God, your nose, or why do you keep
Mm-hmm.
getting your hair done 18 different ways every other month? You know what I'm saying? So it's like you become this thing, and it's like, can I just come in and do my job? So
Right.
that's why validation is important because it's like, yes, sis, they are throwing microaggressions at you. That is what you're dealing with. So you know what I need you to start doing is taking a moment and looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I am beautiful. I
Mm-hmm.
am everyone's desire.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wants to look at me. Look at all these women running around looking like Bratz dolls. They're trying to get my features
Mm-hmm.
and it's not working. But look at me, I was naturally born with them. I'm beautiful. I'm smart. I have 18 degrees. I have no degrees. I have all the experience in the world.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different things that we can make ourselves safe and loving, continue to love ourselves. Because what always happens is we start not to love ourselves. This woman on LinkedIn said she almost lost her life because of her job.
Oof.
This is serious.
And there was that one professor just a few weeks ago who
Yes,
did,
and
and
killed
her
herself.
story, oh man, that story was so heartbreaking because she went to ask for help. We,
She wanted to
generally
go on leave
speaking,
of absence.
yep, we generally do not ask for help. So if we ask our boss for help, for assistance in what we're facing, that means it is dire, and they left her hanging. So
Let me tell you
sad.
something about that really quickly. I went to HR and they met with me every other week after I sound the alarm and was like, basically, y'all are trash. The VP of HR met with me every week. Once I got smart and I got out of my fog, I was like, she's meeting with me to write down everything I'm saying so that if I come back with a case, they have my case. And so I stopped meeting with her and I sent her a letter requesting a severance of 1 year and 2 months. They offered me 2 weeks.
2 weeks severance. You need to stop playing.
2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. That's what they offered me. So you go to them, you thinking that they're your friends, they care for you because you are stressed. You can't think straight.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. Continue to validate yourself so you can stay in your right mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're telling yourself, I am not crazy, it's them. You can't help but to like click back on, like, okay, I can wake up now. They almost got me. They were stirring that cup like and get out. They almost got me in that fog. But whew, I'm up. I'm all the way up. So that's something that, you know, we have to continue to do. But I literally thought, and when I finally woke up, I was like, oh heck no. I wrote that letter, got an attorney to look over it. They told me no, I want to leave of absence. And I got what I needed. I'm just gonna say that so I don't get sued. Y'all
I
pick up
get
on what
it.
I'm dropping.
I get it. I get it. Whew, we
Mm-hmm.
can talk for forever about this because unfortunately, this is
Yes.
something workplace trauma and the things that we go through in not only just the world, but in our workplaces is just awful. I'm thinking about Dr. Claudine Gay, the former president of Harvard. Like
Perfect.
it just keeps going. Like we can talk for days about this one topic. So again, I am so happy you wrote this book. Okay. Safe Spaces for Black Women
Thanks.
by Alicia Coulter. Please pick it up. I will have the link down below in the show notes. That way it's an easy click for you to go ahead and purchase. Where can the people find you?
Oh my goodness, I've been kicking it on LinkedIn lately. Instagram, they mm.
Right.
So I I was like, bye, you this is all I got for you. But LinkedIn has been so much fun. So it's my name, Alicia Coulter. You can find me there. And I'm trying to write a newsletter every month. That's my goal, is to write a newsletter every month and then post my blog that will be coming out in the next, I'm dropping it on my birthday on March 9th. So stay
Oh,
tuned.
nice, nice.
Yes.
Pisces
I
or
am.
Taurus? Nice. Okay.
Oh my, yes. But I'm probably more like a tourist though, because
You're like on the cusp.
I will, yes, I
Gotcha.
stay ready.
I get it. So I will drop her LinkedIn and her Instagram also in the show notes. That way it's an easy click for you to go ahead and follow and connect with her. Thank you so much for your time. I really
Thank
appreciate this
you.
conversation. Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.